how can we build this company where it not only provides my income to my employees, but how can we take this company and design it where it'll be attractive to my true client? My true client is the person who's going to write me a check for my company. How can I make this thing so attractive that that individual, that group, or that buyer out there says, dude, I want exactly what you built. And so by taking a step back in Garrett and building it from the beginning forward, designing it exactly where I was going to be. Now here's shocking. I built a forward-facing perform, but it was detailed. I knew when I was going to hire people. I knew when I was going to implement marketing strategies, etc. 4 years after I crafted that pro forma, whenever I had a buyer in front of me, I brought it out and I showed it to them. I said, look. They looked at me and they said, holy cow, Goodbread, you know what this means? I said, yeah, I know what it means. You're fixing to put another $1 million on the table for buying my business from me.
I'm Garrett Wong, and this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success, and what does winning look like for you? Justin, thanks for being on my podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Garrett. Looking forward to this conversation.
Me too, especially as an entrepreneur. I think we all get into this for some reason, maybe the exit, but I don't think too many people talk about it. But let's back up a little bit. Why don't you give the audience a little bit of your background?
Absolutely. So I've been a business owner, entrepreneur for over 30 years. Started when I was 15 years old, started a landscape company, which converts over to I had a lawnmower weed eater in the back of a truck, right? And within 2 years, my brother and I were actually making more income than my mom and dad put together each. We were killing it. We were crushed at the age of 17, just learning this entrepreneur journey about how working for ourselves and, going out and doing a good, honest day's work for a good, honest day's pay could influence not only our lives, but our families' lives and the lives we had the honor and privilege of our customers to serve. Well, that led now through the last 30 years of starting and exiting 7 different companies from ranges of 5 figures to the most recent being a combined 9-figure exit. And learning the passion and talking with entrepreneurs has become my life's goal, Garrett. It's been fun to walk in this journey for 30 years. And we can certainly dive into any of those facets that I've experienced. But at this phase of life, it's like, man, us entrepreneurs, we're seasoned, we're weathered, we're tenacious, we're resilient, we're all those words. But sometimes we just need to talk. Sometimes we just need to have somebody we can be real with, who's been there, done that. And at this phase of life, man, I'm just happy to be able to influence and talk with the audience and encourage them a little bit today.
Oh, very nice. Well, before we go backwards, so currently right now, what is your main focus then?
Yeah, so I own a coaching company. After my last exit, I realized that business owners were missing the mark. So many of us are really good at creating income. And we're really good at creating a business in our locales, in our geographical areas where we impact our charities that we support, our employees that we all love and care about, our customers. But yet oftentimes we don't take care of ourselves. Statistically, 80% of our net worth is wrapped up in our business. When I look at most business owners' financial statements, especially if they go out to buy real estate or buy the building they want to, occupy, their largest asset is this business. Unfortunately, only about 4% of business owners exit their companies happy with the exit. And more shockingly, only about 20% of business owners ever exit their company for $1. Most 80% of companies end up dissolving. So think about this. We have a group of 33 million business owners across North America, up in Canada, and across the US right now. And out of those 33 million business owners, only about 20% of them will ever get $1 for this company that they've invested decades in. So man, whenever I saw that, and now having exited 7 companies for value, I'm like, it's not that hard, but so many people are missing it. They're not being told about this monumental family legacy changing event, which could happen if you build the company properly. And so at this point in my life, I'm educating, I'm inspiring, and I'm trying to encourage business owners daily that, hey, this journey you're on, this entrepreneurial journey you're on, it is good for you and it is beneficial, and it's hard, but we wouldn't do it if it was easy, right? We get that it's hard and we're tenacious and resilient. But if we take a step back and think about the next 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, we can actually design a business that changes our family's life for the rest of our life. And so at this point, man, I'm enjoying talking about that. I'm enjoying coaching business owners to that end. I'm enjoying just inspiring business owners to look at life differently than perhaps they have in the past.
That is a horrifying statistic. 20% Did I catch that right? 20%?
Yeah, depending on which study you read, you'll see it comes in between about 14 to 18% of small business owners actually transact. Now, what that transact means is that they're going to pass this business down to a child, which no kid really wants it because they watch mom and dad suffer for all these years. So they pass it down to the child, maybe a key employee, maybe an outside competitor, maybe a venture capital firm, some private equity firm, but only about 14 to 18%. I round up to say 20% because it's simple math for me. But depending on which statistic, yeah, we leave a lot of money on the table as business owners because we don't think about our business as an asset, as a stock. We don't think about it as perhaps like a piece of real estate, as we look at it through our minds of a piece of real estate. We look at it as this money machine, and it does create a lot of money, but yet it's not transferable. And it's built around us, the business owner, at the epicenter of our business. So it's shocking at this point, and I think it's now time for somebody who can see it to speak into that. And I've been speaking into this now for over a few years, writing books and on conferences, on stages, etc.
Oh, well, congratulations for that. That is a really great big purpose. And I know myself as a business owner, what is the exit? And I know that there's a lot of single operators out there who think they have businesses, but really don't, but they have, like you said, this great income. And so you're saying this 80% or approximately 80% of these businesses or even single operators basically just dissolve, fold up. So quote unquote retire, but they're left with nothing afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of like owning a rental property, and all you've done is collect rent on it, but never had the opportunity to sell the house or sell the property, right? It makes not a lot of sense, but that's how we end up in business doing. And the reality is, Garrett, is that we build this business around us. Because here's one of the weaknesses, but also strengths of a business owner is we are educated. We are smart, or else we wouldn't be able to be in business longer than about 6 months. So we're smart individuals. We know our craft, we know our product, we know our skill set, but yet we're often very poor at building a business, at being a manager. So we build this business around us, and some of us can scale to 10 people around us. Some of us can scale to 50 people around us, but there comes a certain point to where in every business, no matter the business type, no matter the flavor, no matter where they're at economically, there's comes a certain point where we have to release. And as control freaks, literally me as a business owner, you as a business owner, we like to control it, man. We love to control the business. And so as control freaks, it is hard. It is stinking hard for us to let go and trust Sally or Jimmy or whoever the name you want to put there, to trust them with our baby. And whenever we do that, we feel like a little bit of us is gone. And so that particular rub to start removing ourselves, as I call it, from the epicenter of the business to actually build a transferable asset is so against everything that we are as people, as business owners, that ultimately 80% of us are just going to collect that check, and we're going to make a lot of good money, and we're going to do a lot of good work for the people that we have the honor and privilege to serve. I don't ever want to miss that with our brothers and sisters out there. You as a business owner, you are the backbone of our society. I don't want you to forget that. But if you're not building a business, and in fact, what you have is you have this piece of real estate that you've been collecting dividends off of or rents off of, but you've never been able to capitalize on selling the asset. And many times when you sell the asset, that is when you reap the biggest reward, especially that in business.
So if I'm translating this for our audience, and I think it's a pretty simple concept though, but I mean, a business isn't really worth any value if the owner has to come with it when you sell it. Is that a different way of putting it?
Yeah. So whenever I talk about the owner being the epicenter of the business, there are 7 different value drivers that can drive the value of the company. There's actually 8 as the modern data points. One of those value drivers is owner dependence. And if you built yourself a job, let's go back to Michael Gerber's book, E-Myth, which we all, I hope, have read, right? With Sarah Builds
on the
Pies,
business, right? Not in the business,
yeah,
right?
It's the same adage, right? Well, if the business is built around us, the business owner, and we cannot step away for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and the business grow, then all we have is a job. And no one's going to pay us a premium dollar for a job. And if they do, they're going to require us to go through an earn-out, a holdback, a clawback provision, some sort of these legalese where we think the business is valued much higher than what the buyer is willing to do. And therefore, we end up as business owners often not ever capitalizing. So one of the value drivers to driving value is owner dependence. And it's one of the weakest areas I see in businesses, especially small businesses with under 500 employees, because we, the business owners, love to be in control, and it's hard to let go.
It is, but you're not talking about letting go when you sell it. You're talking about letting go midstream as you're scaling so that you can eventually sell it.
I had this crazy epiphany with a client of mine some years back. So I'll give you the story. It's reality. I hope this maybe anchors what I'm trying to put some passion around. I'm sitting in the West Virginia mountaintops. I'm looking across the vista. You can just imagine it with your mind's eye, the beautiful scenery. And beside me is a very wealthy business owner, at least from what the world would look at. And they say, man, this guy's got it together. He has the nice cars. He takes the fancy vacations. He has the employees. He can take time off fairly regularly, like many of us desire. But he's sitting there with me on the mountaintop and he says, Justin, I'm broke. Now, Garrett, I didn't expect to hear that from this type of a person that by all accounts we would say is successful. And I said, dude, what do you mean you're broke? And he started breaking it down. He said, look, yes, I do have $3 million of equipment sitting on here, bulldozers and track hoes and various types of heavy equipment. He goes, I have that, but if I sell it, I got to pay recapture tax, which is going to eat about 60% here in the United States. And his particular state is going to be close to 70. He goes, so if I sell for $3 million, I'm going to lose 70% on recapture. And all I got is $200,000 in my IRA. And my house is paid for, my cars are paid for. But in order for me to live my lifestyle, man, I got to get like $6 million. How in the world can I do that? And the reality was he didn't have a business that anybody would pay $6 million for. And that is the trap that many of our business owners find. So I can remember sitting there listening to him and I'm like, there's got to be a way to figure this out. At the same time, I sat back and Garrett, I said, you know what? That's me. That is Justin Goodbread. If I don't make some changes, even though I've already sold 3 companies, unless I do something now, I'm going to end up being this individual in my 50s and 60s because I love the game. What I do? I relaunched my business. I literally walked away from $250,000 recurring revenue. Think about recurring revenue, walked away from that and totally restructured my company from scratch. One employee basically said, I'm going to pay my family a low amount of money, 60 grand a year for a little bit of time here just to get the company off the ground. 49 months later, I had an 8-figure exit. 49 months later, from scratch to an 8-figure exit. That individual I'm talking about during that same 49 months had an 8-figure exit. What did we do differently? We took a step back and we said, how can we build this company where it not only provides my income to my employees and does the products and services that our team needs or that our customers need, but how can we take this company and design it where it'll be attractive to my true client? My true client is the person who's going to write me a check for my company. How can I make this thing so attractive that that individual or that group or that buyer out there says, dude, I want exactly what you built? Now, that's a different framework than the way many of us build businesses. It's as if when we start a company, we want to go out and build a house, but we don't have a blueprint. We build it from the ground up. It's like, oh, this stick looks good here, and this stud looks good here, and yeah, I'll put an outlet here. And when we get back, we have this monstrosity, is what I call a Franken firm, a Franken business, right? This Frankenstein thing. What I did for myself and this client, now what I've taught thousands of business owners to do is take a step back, look at where you want to go the next 3, 4, 5 years, and let's backwards engineer how can we take your company today, reposition it so that it is truly attractive to that buyer out there who's willing to walk in and start shelling out some cash for you and say, hey, brother, I'm willing to pay you X number of dollars for your company because you built it to be transferable. So I'm talking about giving up control, yes, today, but in this framework around how do we take our companies and build them for the future buyer so they're willing to give us the hard cash for our hard work.
See, I actually was taken for a loop there. I thought you were going to say build it for your ideal client being the end consumer. And then you jumped right over me there and went right to the end user, which should be the buyer of your company, which is kind of blows me away a little bit, to be honest, because I think all of us entrepreneurs are always focused on, okay, I'm going to put out the best product. How much is it going to cost? Can I service that client? And on and so forth. But what is a different mentality that you have to have? And can you serve both purposes, the end client and your, I guess, intermediate client, the end consumer?
I think if I relate business oftentimes to real estate, it makes sense to me because I can see real estate, right? I can see that mountain house. My wife and I have a few houses here and there and everywhere. We're investors in real estate. And whenever I bought this mountain house, our most recent purchase, I knew that somebody in the future would look at this house, the shell of the property, and say, that is a gorgeous home. It has a great view. It has the things that we need in order for this to be a great asset for our family. So the bones of the house were there to make it where the future buyer would say, yes, I want that. Simultaneously, we had to make some modifications to the house where this is an Airbnb style property, short term rental property. We had to make some adjustments in the property to make it where the guest would come in the immediacy and say, yes, we want this particular venture for our 1 week stay or our 3 day stay. The same is true in your business. And if we take our customers, which are the people that we serve, right, we provide our service and products to, we want our customers to be loyal. We know a customer has a life cycle. We know that may be X number of months to X number of years, depending on what type of business we're in. So if we look at our customer and say, yes, we want this customer journey along as we offer our products and services to maximize that life cycle, great. That we have to do, else we're not going to be in business. But we can't forsake that we're building this asset, this business in this case, we're building this asset so that somebody is going to come in holistically and look at this thing and say, not only have you provided a good customer experience and you have good loyalty and you have good referral bases and all those things which go with that particular example of my business, but they're also going to say you have built a business that doesn't require you, the business owner, to stay at the epicenter. You built a business that can continue to shell out NOI, net operating income, or EBOC, earnings before owner's compensation, or whatever the measurement is that we're going to measure. You built a business that is beyond you. You built a business that serves the customer, but also will serve me, the investor. If we think about the business in light of perhaps a rental property, as I've just done, we can put some framework around. It's not all or nothing. There's two sides to every coin, right? We've never seen a one-sided coin. We've never seen a one-sided pancake. There's always two sides. In the business world, the two sides is we have to provide our service, but we also have to provide the value, grow the value. So the way I describe it on stage, Garrett, is I'll say, I've seen a lot of businesses that are profitable. Seen a lot of businesses are profitable. I see thousands of P&Ls and financial statements per year when I consult business owners. I've seen a lot of businesses which are profitable, but I've also seen those profitable businesses seldom have value. But get this, I've never seen a valuable business that was not also profitable. And that's a play on words. Let me say it one more time. So I've seen a lot of businesses which are profitable but are not valuable, but I've never seen a valuable business which is not profitable. And so we as business owners, we focus on our profits. We focus on how can we provide to our customer, when the reality is we have to pay equal, if not greater attention to who do we provide, what value are we creating for our client? Our client is the person who's going to buy us or is going to provide the funding for someone to buy. That is a slight dichotomy, but brother, I'm telling you, if we focus on both sides of that pancake, both sides of that coin, so to speak, then we do build high valuable companies that also have high profits.
No, I get it. I think if I can translate that, what you're saying is if you can build a company that's automatically worth value, of course it's going to have profit. Otherwise, somebody wouldn't want it.
Right.
But on the other hand, sure, you could have a profitable business that you're the cook, the server, the dishwasher, and therefore there is no value there because you have just bought yourself a job.
Absolutely. So well said.
Yeah. You mentioned so many different exits. I'm curious. Normally I dig into this at the very beginning of the pod, and I know we're into it a little bit. Tell me about your 15-year-old self and your brother. Like, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, I often, when I do these type of interviews or on stage, the people will line up afterwards and they'll say, "Hey, Goodbread, tell me about your 15-year-old self. How in the world did you do that?" And the reality is back in the day, this is 30 plus years ago now, so I'm 40 years ago, I'm showing my age, my mom and dad decided they were going to do things different. My mom and dad are the true heroes of my story, not me, not my brother, my sister. My mom and dad said, we're going to change the financial future of the Goodbread family. They came from, I'm going to call it dysfunctional families. They both grew up in some very horrific things that we won't even talk about in open airways many times because it's just bad. But they made a decision. And when I say the word decision, Garrett, they decided to cut away all other options. And that's what the root word of decide means. They're like, we've decided that we're going to change our children's destiny. And so they began homeschooling us at the age of about 4 to 5 years old each. I was homeschooled back 40 years ago when actually some might say it was illegal to do back in the day.
Yeah, it wasn't
now it's
in favor,
popular
that's for
because
sure.
of COVID, right? I mean, COVID's made it popular and various political things, whatever. But I was homeschooled years ago, and they literally raised us listening to Les Brown and Zig Ziglar and reading Dave Ramsey. My very first book was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, a hero of mine, right? These books were in my mind, and we were going to conferences at the age of 10, 11, 12. So whenever we reached 15, we had the academics, What was crazy to Garrett is my mom, who has a master's degree in nursing, came home from the hospital and decided to ride around my brother and I and teach us business. She was basically reading these books as an adult and teaching my brother and I business, literally on the job training from a parent. Well, that set up an unbelievable opportunity for my brother and I, that if we are not successful, shame on us after what they invest in our lives. And so I know not everybody has that opportunity, but for my story, mom and dad decided they're going to teach us to be business owners. And so at the age of 15, we launched Lawn Care by the Boys. And at the age of 22, my brother has started a pool business. Now this unbelievable successful business in the islands of South Georgia. And I sold that company to as my first exit at the age of 22. Sold a little landscape company that was quite valuable. From there, man, it just bloomed. I followed. I've had 3 exits in the financial world. I built a consulting business to take dentists to right out of school to help them buy a business and convert it and grow the business. That ended up selling to multiple national firms. Just exited. I sold Financially Simple for 7 figures years back, which is my marketing company, and got it back for $1 last year. So I've got all these fun stories around entrepreneurship. But here's what I'm going to leave your audience with. I had a very unique circumstance. I had a mom and dad who did things a little different back in the day. And so I don't want them to say, well, Justin, you had my mom and dad, I didn't have a mom and dad, or I didn't have this type of opportunity. Look, we live in the greatest time ever. I can literally get on my YouTube channel right now and pick up Zig Ziglar and watch him the same way I did 35, 40 years ago. So as business owners, we realize that it's tenacity and resilience that are going to lead us to success. But I want to bring it back to, at the age of 15, my dad sat down. He says, son, what do you want out of life? And I said, Pops, that's what I called my dad. I said, Pops, in my 40s, like you've done, I want to be able to take my children hunting and fishing and camping and scuba diving. I want to live like no one else is living. And I remember Dave Ramsey had just come on the scene back in that day, and he'd make the statement, if you live like no one else, you'll live like no one else. And so I took these methodologies, Garrett, at the age of 15 and adopted them to be my ethos, my values. And over the last 30 years, they've served me well to where now it's pretty amazing that I have the opportunity to impact and influence so many entrepreneurs nationally and globally.
No, it takes me back to what you had said about the difference. And I'm going to ask this as a question, actually.
Sure.
So you had an exit, $10 million over a few years of building that business. And the previous business, you had also exited. Can you take us through maybe a cost and contrast and compare between the two methodologies?
Yeah, sure. So I had 3 exits before my 8-figure exit back in that 48 months. The first one was my landscape company. I didn't know anything at that point. I knew basically how to grow a business, how to do sales, how to do marketing, how to do operations. And basically, I sold an operational company that's still in existence today and is flourishing, and even today. Some 30 years later, it's still in existence. That's a lot of pride for me, right? I went on to start a insurance-based business where I was selling insurance back in I think it was 2000s, before the crash of '09. Ended up selling that one through a business divorce. That one was not fun. That one cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars, legal fees, and just a business divorce, let's call it. Not fun, but I learned a lot. I sold the consulting company because I got bored with it, and had a firm reach out to me and said, man, we see what you do. Can you sell this? Now, all 3 of those companies, here's what I was really good at. I was really good at creating operational structures to where anybody could step in and run the company without me. I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to go hunting and fishing and play with my kids and scuba diving and all those fun things we do now. So I wanted to be able to do that. So I learned how to master operations more so than sales or marketing back in the days. That was pre a lot of training and a lot of repositioning my life. Each one of those exits were 5, 6, and 7 figures. Cool. That was fun. But here I am now looking at life through a little different lens, Garrett, saying, how can I take wealth and create wealth in a quicker time frame? I have this belief. I've had it for a long time, and it may fly in the face of reality, but it's my belief. I believe it's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a lot of money over a long period of time. The reason why I say that is because the shorter period of time, you have less risk in that shorter period of time. But as you move forward, risk seem to attack wealth over a longer period of time, various risk, asystemic or systemic risk, depending which way you want to go there. So I'm sitting here calculating, and I learned this methodology as a certified exit planning advisor. And now I have the opportunity to speak and teach literally thousands of advisors, financial advisors, attorneys, CPAs, business owners nationally every single month around that you can grow value in a company. See, I never heard of value before, only focused on profits. And so the previous three companies I sold, even though I did well in terms of income, there was no asset value there. It was like I just had this rental property that I didn't own. Once I learned that, hey, there are 8 areas of business and there are 8 value drivers of business. And if we can mesh these things together and we look at it through the lens of a client, the person who wants to buy our company, if we look at it through that lens and understand who our potential clients are, then if we could backwards engineer a business like you would design a draft for an architectural drawing for a property or something of that nature, then we just might be able to change some things. So the last 3 companies, I launched them simultaneously as a synergy. See, in my financial world at that time, there were a lot of financial advisors who knew how to sell stocks and bonds and financial plans, but they didn't know how to talk to business owners. And I think Wall Street's the enemy of us business owners, personal opinion of mine. I just think we can grow our assets better than hand it over to a financial advisor. I believe that with all my heart. So I began talking like this as a financial advisor, and I was looked at like a cow looking at a new gate, man. I mean, these financial advisors are like, dude, you're crazy. But yet the business owner's like, dude, you're exactly right. I don't trust Wall Street, man. I trust my hands. I trust the ability to push in my business. So I began looking and saying, how can I educate? So I launched a company called Financially Simple, which was a marketing company. It allowed me to start writing for Forbes and Kiplinger, write books, speak on podcasts, get on stages and talk to my brothers and sisters as business owners. And then I began consulting these business owners on here's how you can drive value in your company. At the same time, I had this little financial firm over here when they had a little $100,000 in the IRA. Well, here, let the financial advisor manage that. That's what it is, whatever that's going to be. That ended up taking root that I knew my buyer, in my case, I knew my buyer was looking for someone who could penetrate the small business market, but also design systems to take that small business owner and give them the ability to convert that business from this illiquid asset to a liquid asset. So therefore they can shift it over to real estate or investment solutions or securities and things of that nature. So with a different set of ideals, my previous 3 companies, which led to an 8-figure exit, that 3 companies were built almost like an architect drawing a set of plans. I looked at it as if here's what I'm going to build it toward, versus my previous 3 companies were, man, well, I'm just going to roll with the punches. As the fires come, I'm going to put them out. I'm going to spin the plates, whichever one's falling. I know I got to drive revenue. I got to do sales. I know I got to build operations. It was a different thinking. And so by taking a step back in Garrett and building it from the beginning forward, designing it exactly where I was going to be. Now here's shocking. This threw an extra $1 million in my pocket, by the way. Whenever I designed my company, I actually built a forward-facing pro forma, like we would do with a piece of real estate when we go to finance it with a company, with a bank. I built a forward-facing pro forma, but it was detailed. I knew when I was going to hire people. I knew when I was going to implement marketing strategies, etc. 4 years after I crafted that pro forma, whenever I had a buyer in front of me, I brought it out and I showed it to them. I said, look, my NOI is off by $30,000 4 years later. I projected exactly where I'm going to be. I'm actually above my NOI by 30 grand, what I projected. And if you follow the strategy of the next 2 years, which was the earnout phase, over the next 2 years, you should be here. Whenever I showed that to the buyer, who was my targeted client, I already knew who they were going to be. They looked at me and they said, holy cow, Goodbread, do you know what this means? I said, yeah, I know what it means. You're fixing to put another $1 million on the table for buying my business from me. So it became a position of strength where me as a business owner, I could not zig and zag and chase a shiny object like so many of us do. I knew exactly what I was going to do for that 48-month period of time and totally shocked my expectations of what the value was going to be.
So you're setting up basically a targeted pathway by which the buyer can see into the future as well. So it's not just, this is what I've done, here's my EBITDA, my NOI, whatever, which is what most businesses do. You're like, no, I had already predicted it was going to be here. So if you do exactly what I'm going to do, not only are you buying the business what it's going to be worth today, but it's going to be worth this in the future.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. There's a thing. So I teach 4 points. I teach 4 points that every business owner should do yearly. First thing is we should know the value of our company every year. We know the value of our real estate. We know the value of our stock portfolio. We need to know the value of our company today. So what is that value? And then what is the value gap? You see, Every company, no matter the NAIC code or the type of company you're in, every company has a value, and you're going to fall somewhere on the bell curve of being undervalued or best in class. Let's say top 5 percentile of your price point. So if I know the value of the company, then I can see that, hey, you're lagging best in class peers by X dollars. We now know that we can grow our multiple. And I'll explain this. We can grow our multiple of our company to close that gap. So whenever we look at a value, for simplicity, I'm not going to get into discounted cash flow methodology today, but I'm going to talk about the multiple effect that any business can do. You have EBITDA. Let's use that as a data point: earnings before depreciation, interest,
Yep.
taxes, and amortization. So we have EBITDA. Let's say EBITDA is worth $100,000. Well, then you have a multiple. Let's say the multiple is 2. Hypothetically, your multiple in your industry is 2. That means you have a $200,000 business. 100,000 times 2 is $200,000. What we do as business owners, because we love the sell and we love the game, is we go out and try to get more revenue, more EBITDA, and we try to drive up that number. What we end up doing, though, is we end up increasing what's called company-specific risk. We end up like trying to put a water hose to a fire hydrant. Doesn't work. What we should be looking at is, how can we double our multiple? How can we move our multiple from 2 to 4? Move it where, let's say our revenue remains the same, but how can we become best in class with that revenue level? And as we become best in class, what happens is, instead of putting a water hose to a fire hydrant, we get a fire hose. We get a company that's able to handle the flow of our business without the constraints internally. And as we increase the flow, what happens is we increase our revenue. So what I teach the business owners today is, look, you have a value, and there's a gap between wherever your company is and where it should be to be best in class. Now, let's understand that there's 8 value drivers and there's 8 areas of business. And if we can look at your company through an assessment, then we can look at it and say, you know what, as an example, yeah, I realize you don't have a written marketing plan, but if we did, it's only going to add $70,000 of value here. However, we do need to overhaul your employee operations. And if we overhauled your employee operations and we got the right benefits package in place and we got the right golden handcuffs in place, man, that may add $150,000 of value to your company. See, if we look at it saying, how can we not only drive the profits, not only drive the risk sales of the company or EBITDA, but how can we drive that multiple? Then we end up winning. So I teach, look, there's a value gap. There are 8 drivers, 8 areas of business and 8 values. And then you've got to lay out a strategic plan on a 90-day sprint. We often hear as big rocks or 90-day sprints, or these things that are methodologies out there we've all heard of. Mm-hmm. How do we build it so that your team possesses ownership of this, not you? See, what I see so many coaches out there doing is they come to the business owner and say, here's your plan. And the owner gets it like, hoorah, let's go. And they're willing to charge hell with a water pistol. But then they go back to their office and their team's like, you want me to do what? You want me to work harder for the same amount of money? No. And we end up having this mutiny on our hand. Reality is if we can build the strategic plan to where it's the team's idea, the team's vision, the team's processes, and you are simply the coach of the team, then you win. So I teach this methodology that is based in value, that's scientific around the value drivers and the 8 areas of business, and then actionable by your team. And if you cycle that 2 or 3 times a year, Garrett, it's easy. It's easy to create generational wealth for the rest of your life. You can change your life for the rest of your life in less than 60 months, period.
So I am smiling for those of you who are on YouTube here, but for those of you who aren't, I'm smiling here because I'm skeptical, right? I am that business owner, that leader that's taken a ton of coaching, and I've got all the ideas and I've got my 90-day plans. How in the world do you get your team on board for something, an event in the near future where they might be out of a job?
Okay, so let me you're saying that they may be out of a job because we may be selling the company.
Well, I'm just saying, how do you position it to be able to empower your staff? You know, I'm challenging you a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. Great challenge. Let's lay some underlying assumptions here. Okay.
Sure.
So typically if I have that question, I've got a business owner that maybe has high revenue, but they are still at the epicenter of the business. They have released enough for their team to run. And typically whenever I hear that statement, not always the case, there's typically a turnover issue, or there's maybe some lethargic employees in place, or the company is kind of annuitized. Okay. Something of that nature. I don't know exactly what your company would be, Garrett, but that's typically what I see. The reality is that, especially as we get older, Our employees know that we are not going to be around forever. They know that the company is going to, at some point, do something. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could take the paradigm and shift it and say, hey, I've got a team of picking up 25 people. You got 25 people, 2 sub managers, and you're the owner. Hey guys, look, you realize that we've been at this game for now 20 years. And I'm tired. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm tired as an owner. You see it. They care about you because you're their boss, but you're also their friend and you're their leader, and they see it and they know you. Look, I've got about 5 to 10 years ahead of me. Here's what I want to do. Right now, the company is worth roughly $5 million. Wouldn't it be amazing if, as a group of us, we could take this $5 million and move it to $10 million over the next 5 years? And wouldn't it be amazing over the next 5 years is if we can increase or double the value of this, if you had some equity share in that play? Wouldn't it be amazing if over the next 5 years, not only are you getting paid best in class, and not trying to give them the cheapest compensation, wouldn't it be amazing that over the next 5 years, if you not only were paid at the premium level for your job, but you also participated with me in what we're going to build together? Wouldn't that be amazing? And wouldn't it be amazing if I get out of your way? Because you know your job better than I do. What do you think? And what's going to come from that type of wouldn't it be amazing is your team's going to say, you're telling me that we could actually own a little bit of the stock? No, well, I didn't say own the stock. I said, would it be amazing if you could participate? What if over the next 5 years we could take this thing, and right now we're projecting to go from 5 to 7. What happens if we could illustrate another $3 million in value because of your direct influence, and you participated in that, and you had this opportunity 5 years from now where perhaps you shared 10% of that, 20% of that, 30%, whatever the business owner's heart is, right? I've yet to have that conversation or coach my business owner clients who really care for their employees. And not everybody does, you know that, but who really care for their employees. When their employees who are friends have been along this journey with them, then they come back and say, man, they're excited. What's it going to take? Okay. Now they're excited. We're all facing the same end zone. Think about football. We're all facing the same end zone, going the same direction, or we're all facing the same hockey, the hockey goal in the opposite end being Europe and Canada. So imagine now if you said, we could do this, but now it's your job to do it. And we're going to have somebody who's going to walk you through 27 action items that you are going to decide on what you, the employee, thinks needs to be done in the company. And you're going to present to me and the advisory board on what needs to be done. And as you do this, here's what happens, Garrett, as a business owner. The minute you give authority to your team, you're also shifting over responsibility. And if they accept it, it's their baby. And no one likes to say their baby's ugly. It's their baby, and they're going to put everything they have behind that particular action. And you as the business owner are going to see multiplicative growth, that you're not now the selfish, greedy business owner. You're the pilot. You're the captain of the team, and the whole team is pushing in the same direction. Garrett, I've yet to have a business owner who's not willing to position it properly with a true team who's willing to drive forward and watch it grow. I've yet to have it happen.
Oh, it's amazing. So, I mean, first of all, I agree with you. So thank you. And give me some soft examples, maybe not even specific on how, so you're saying, how would you like to participate, quote unquote? Are you talking about business is worth 5 right now? Hopefully with your input, it's going to be worth 8. You would, put it on paper that you would get a share of the profits of some whatever future exit. Is that how you position this?
You can position 1,000 different ways if you wanted to. It depends on the particular state or the particular country and the laws that govern it. But there's a myriad. So it could be actual stock in the company. You could create a new share class in the company if you're an S corp or an LLC here in the United States. You could create what's called phantom stock. You could create some sort of an incentive stock option, ISO. Right. So there's a couple of different ways there. It may not have to be something that lawyers get involved with. It may be, hey, look, upon the sale, I'm willing to say that you'll get in a closure agreement of 2% of the company value, whatever it may be. It could be that whenever I sold my company, I had a group of employees that, look, we don't want any shares. We just want to make sure the company we're going to, that we have an ability for us to excel in that company. So I was able to negotiate for them good employment agreements that they had some solidity of their job going forward. So it could be benefits. It could be 1,000 different things. It all depends on what the company wants to do. More importantly, what the owner wants to do, right? But my point to answer in the way I did was your question is very true. And it's a question that many business owners have. How in the world am I going to get my team to support the company's movement over the next period of time? How am I going to get them to do that without a mutiny, without burnout, without all these things, and energize? And it comes back to we care for our teams, but we're actually going to put our money where our mouth is. And when we do that, it's like on a football team, some of the highest paid players are the most motivated because they know what's at risk. Same is true. The scripture says it this way: where your treasure is, your heart is also, right? Marcus Aurelius uses the same things in his book's meditation that, hey, if we can get the heart of our students or warriors in his case to know what's at risk, then they will actually drive forward. Same is true with your team members.
Okay. No, I love it. Let's talk about emotions because a lot of this is really about emotions. And the emotional side of a business, never mind getting mad at your clients or maybe upset because certain employees aren't doing what they're supposed to, but how do you transition one's mindset to know that your baby is going to eventually be sold and come to grips with that? How do you counsel your clients?
Word is mindset there. I talk about this. Actually, I'm writing a new book right now that I have a whole 3 or 4 chapters dedicated to mindset. The reality is, and I think whenever we talk with when I'm coaching somebody, they understand this, that there's going to be a death at least. We're not going to live forever. So you're going to die. The business is going to go away. There could be a disability. There could be divorce. There could be discouragement, disagreement, lots of these D's that come in to your company. And so the reality is that this company is not our baby. It's a business is there to generate wealth for you, the owner, your employees, your community, your charities. That's what a business is for. And we know this by looking at books like written by Jim Collins, Good to Great. And we see that how many businesses over the last 100 years are still not in existence today. And the statistics on first generation versus second generation business, we know this in our minds, but yet our heart as business owners, we're the ones who have been bleeding, literally. We're the ones who have been up at night crying. We're the ones who are stressed about our employees going through hard times. We're the ones who are stressed about our customers going through hard times. So there's this emotional toll. I've been there. I write about this in my book, Your Baby's Ugly, about me laying awake at night, not being able to sleep because of the burden that I took on as a business owner that no one asked me to take on. But it's that what gives us the heart of compassion that we all have. Reality is that we have a family, most of us, and we have responsibilities that rely on us, not that business. For me personally, Garrett, I'll tell you this. Whenever I inked the deal, my most recent deal, I inked it. It was late at evening. No one was there. There was no pomp and circumstance. My wife was beside me. I was scared to death. Scared to death. Not in the sense that didn't know what I was going to do next, because we're entrepreneurs. Man, we'll charge hell with a water pistol. We know how to make money. Not that. I was scared in the fact that what are my friends going to say? What are my customers going to say? What are my employees going to say? Did I do this because of hardship? No, I did it because it made financial sense. It was looking at like a stock portfolio. It's like, this is 3 times what it should be worth. Yes, I'm going to sell it. I was scared in the sense of the unknown because my identity was that business. What I've experienced over the last now 3 years since that exit is I'm in my 40s. I have time and money now, which gives me freedom, and I'm having more influence and more impact than I ever had before. And when we talk to business owners who've gone through this transition on their terms, mind you, they sit back and say it's the best thing I ever did. The scary part is that fear and that scarcity mindset that we often will find ourselves in leads us into a position where we end up with the same exact emotions, but not on our terms. It becomes because of a health issue, or because of a political change, or because of regulation change, or because whatever the circumstance is. So I think whenever you have an honest to goodness discussion with a business owner, most business owners are quickly understand that, man, this has been hard the last decade or so. I realize I'm a steward of this business. Yes, it does provide me a good income. However, I'm going to leave it at some point. Might as well build it to be the best it can and leave it on my terms and let me prepare for in my case, third act. Let them prepare for this next chapter of their life where they're in control still, as opposed to letting life happen and they find themselves there completely out of control.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about business owners, myself included. You go through ups and downs, ebbs and flows, feeling trapped, feeling like you just can't make it past that next little break point to start scaling again. What would you say to those business owners, and how to get through those hard times?
We've all been there, every one of us. I don't care what anybody says, they don't have their act together. No matter how flashy they look on social media, we're all fighting the same dragons. We all are. What separates the winners, if you will, I want to use that term very loosely because each of us define it differently, but what separates the winners or how we're going to win is all about mindset and perspective. You know, I went through a 7-year period of my life that was dark. And there's not a human listening to me that has not gone through hard times, no matter what it is. We've all dealt with it. And if we look at business in light of those hard times, which is often not business related, then we realize that it's probably not going to get as bad as that, whatever that was. As long as we're couching the future decisions we're making in light of our past strengths, weaknesses, challenges, whatever your term is that you want to use there, as long as we're couching that, I've yet to meet a business owner that has not rallied because of our tenacity and our resilience, who's not rallied to meet the challenge in front of us. Yet to meet it. The question becomes, on whose term are we going to fight this battle? And for us as business owners, because we're smart, we're tenacious, we're intelligent, we know our craft, we know our community, we know our customers, we know everything about us. I just believe that we as a sect, we want to fight the battles on our terms. So if that's you and you're listening to me and saying, absolutely, Goodbread, that's right where I'm at, may I challenge you then to take a step back. And I'm going to ask you a question that literally rocked my world. Let me set this question up. And I think it'll put an icing on this cake that you're painting here, Garrett. So during COVID, my wife became deathly sick. I did not think she was going to live. She's healthy today. God's blessed her. We're in good shape. But I'm sitting beside her bed, and we didn't think she was going to live. Less than 12% chance that she was going to live. We had to make a life or death decision on a surgery. And so I'm sitting there, Garrett, as a business owner of now 30 years, or 26 years at the time. And she looks at me not as this is not a Justin trying to flex thing. This is just reality. This literally happened. She looks at me and she said, Justin, what's another $1 million going to do for us? And I was like, well, nothing really. I mean, we're financially set. We've been blessed. We've gone through things. She said, okay, all right. She goes, then why are you worried about business? And I'm sitting by a hospital bed, Garrett, like what business owners do when we're on vacation. We're thinking about our baby. Well, my baby, my bride, a beautiful girl is laying in the hospital bed. I'm planning her funeral in my head. Now, during that time period, the 16-week battle that we had, my business grew 25% without me in part of it. My coach, whom I've had coaches, and I had the privilege of coaching business owners. My coach, I called him. I said, you won't believe what my wife just said to me. She said this. He said, okay, let me ask you a question. Here's the question, Garrett. Garrett, if you, Justin, if I had unlimited time and unlimited resources, which we know that's impossible, what will we do tomorrow that we're not doing today? That was the question my coach asked me. So my wife says, Justin, what's another $1 million going to do for us? And my coach says, Justin, if you had unlimited time, which none of us do, and unlimited resources, he didn't say money, he said resources, which could be 1,000 different things, right? It could be talents, it could be prestige, it could be a Rolodex, it could be a number of different things. What would you do tomorrow that you're not doing today? And I sat back and I said, I don't know how to answer and process this. My business is growing. My wife's dying. We don't need money, but I want to do some things. And I instantly got out my journal. I started writing down, what would I do? And as I wrote down, you know what I found myself talking about? I found myself talking about my family, spending time with my kids, making memories that last a lifetime, influencing charities. We have a heart for orphans. So I started writing these things down, but not anywhere on there did it say that I was going to go out and create another $1 million or go out and get 35 more customers. It came about this point of my life is finite. So if you find yourself as a business owner out there saying, man, I'm tired, or I'm at a ceiling in my life, whatever it be, take a step back. Selah moment, old Hebrew word says pause. Just breathe for a second. Look into the future and say, what do I want my future to be like in 5 years, in 10 years? And if you get crystal clear on that vision, that goal, that aspiration, that whatever it is for you, then I tell you that the business that you have right now that is perhaps hitting that glass ceiling, it will probably be the catalyst that will drive you and your dreams to fruition. And you'll look at it differently from this business that I'm bumping against that proverbial wall or that rock that I'm bumping against. Now it's going to say, how? Because I know you have it within you. You're a business owner. I know that you can look at this thing and say, okay, if that's where I'm going, what do I have to change today? And perhaps, just perhaps, you have that same epiphany that I had sitting on that West Virginia mountaintop that said, you know what? What if I built my business for the actual buyer? And in 7 years' time, I could sell this thing. My number was for $5 million. What happened was in 49 months, it went for more than 8 figures or 8 figures. The same is true in your life. You take a step back and you look at where you're at today and where you want to be. Maybe the story is not as grim as mine was, but I'm telling you, Garrett, I've yet to meet a business owner, brother. Never yet to meet a business owner who doesn't have within themselves to drive through that proverbial ceiling, to charge hell with a water pistol and reach that destination. Yet to meet one.
Yeah, no, I think if I'm taking anything away from you today, Justin, it's that like you said, that end goal of trying to position your company to sell to a buyer, right? Because I myself, you get into it, right? You think you're into the business for making money, providing a good life for yourself, but what does it look after that? And I think I'm energized just by listening to you, because if I think about the exit for the good of my family, my legacy, my clients, and my employees, I think those mountains that you think you have to overcome become speed bumps on the way to success.
Absolutely. You're so right, brother. I'm excited
Yeah.
for you. I'm
Yeah,
excited
no,
for
I
you.
I love the revelations. I love it. I love it. Um, you know, you're a fellow podcaster. When I looked at how many episodes that you've got underneath your belt, I mean, I've been doing this for a couple of years. I think I've got 60 or 70, well over 500. Um, tell me about a few of the top insights that you've had interviewing business owners.
Um, probably the biggest insight I've had is be authentic, be myself. You know, we all have coaches. I have 5 coaches right now in my life that help me. And I believe in coaching so much that I've now work as a coach because I seen what coaches did for me. One of my coaches gave me some piece of advice. He was my spiritual coach at the time. And he said, Justin, you've got to be yourself. God's designed you for a specific journey. Be yourself. Before then, Garrett, I wasn't willing to use the word God in a statement because I didn't want to offend people. I don't want to harm people, right? I wasn't willing to use things like a calf looking at a new gate. I'm a country boy from the South, man. I like sweet tea and pecan pie. And I just didn't want to offend people. I didn't want to talk, politics at the right time or various things, of money and all these things. And what I found is that me being myself, coming up with the topics that are near and dear to my heart, as a business owner, you know what? It may not be for everybody out there. I don't have the biggest podcast in the world, but the people that I have the honor and privilege to talk into their lives who have totally different belief systems than I do. They write me things like, hey, Goodbread, I'm not a believer in Jesus, but would you pray for me? I'm going through a hard time. Or they'll say things like, hey, Goodbread, I don't understand what a termite and a yo-yo means, but here's how I'm feeling right now. Brother, help me. And I'm able to talk into the lives of people I've never met that reach out to me. I think that's been the number one. Number two is that I don't care if anybody listens. Now that sounds crazy. I don't care if anybody listens because I'm not, it's going to sound harsh, but it's not, hear me in my heart. There are a lot of people who listen to my podcast, thousands, tens of thousands of people. We've had 100,000 download episodes. I don't know them, but I know my kids. And if I could document my thoughts, my heart, my ethos, my values, the things which have led to my successes and failures, if I can document that as the old journal we used to be into a microphone and a camera, then it may not be my children, but it may be my grandchildren one day. Whenever grandpa or whatever my name is of being, they're dead, I'm dead and gone. And they can look and say, you know what? He left it on the field. He did the very best he could to impact those around him. To me, Garrett, that's what I learned early on. And yes, it's been 550 some odd episodes. I've had a guest on a few. Most of them are me talking me talking about what I'm learning and just being authentically raw. And it's just amazing how that is missing in our polished society today. It's amazing how you and I, as owners, want authenticity. We want that raw. We want to know that emotion. We want to see that tear in the eye. We want to hear that pain, that fear in a voice, because we're all human and we're all facing the exact same things. So I think if there are two lessons, it'd be that. Number one is be authentic. Number two is don't do it for anybody else except for those who you love.
Yeah, no, the very, very profound words. I mean, I've hired marketing agencies in the past, and no disrespect to them. They've done a great job. They did what they were supposed to, but they made me look like everybody else. And I know that my social media content has always done better when I'm me, I'm myself. I mean, I don't have a huge personality. I'm not going to go out there and jump on cars and, you know, it's just not me. But, if you can tell it like yourself, leave a legacy behind the microphone and the camera so people know what you stood for, again, that's that whole thing, not to be morbid, but, I went through an exercise with a coach where you write your eulogy, right? You write your own eulogy for your funeral, right? And it was probably one of the most profound experiences I would recommend for anybody, because that is what you're leaving behind. It's not what you're doing today or how much money you make. It's being authentic, transparent, and being able to impact people's lives.
Absolutely. That's my word, is impact. I want my kids, Garrett, one day, I want them to say, in fact, I just came off a 2-week sabbatical with my son. We went out to Colorado elk hunting, turned life off for 2 weeks. It was a dream of mine. He's my oldest son. My dad did this whenever I was a kid. I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my boys out and go elk hunting for 2 weeks in the backcountry. And we were driving across the country. Think about this. What parent would not want to spend 2 weeks with their 16-year-old? And then for their 16-year-old coming across the country, him say, Dad, I love you. Thank you. I mean, who doesn't want that? And at the same time, now he got on a podcast and he said, my dad often says on his podcast, go out and make it a great day, because if you don't make it, it's not going to happen. I'm like, dude, he's listening. So to me, this journey that we as business owners are on, yes, we have the honor and privilege to serve our customers. Yes, we want to build a business for our client, the person who's going to buy our business. Yes, we want to do our very best that we can do and be a man or woman of our word. Yes, we want to provide to our charities and our communities. Yes, all those things are true. Brother, at the end of the day, and maybe it's because of my wife's experience, and I guarantee that's it. At the end of the day, that whenever we're on our deathbed, not to be morbid here, but the reality is short. We only have a short period of time on this earth. Whenever we're on our deathbed, another million is not going to matter. But what will matter are those that we had the honor and privilege to serve and impact to the best of our abilities. So that now whenever I sold my companies, my customers came lined up and like, Goodbread, thank you for serving us. Thank you for impacting our lives. Thank you for being an honorable person. That's what it's about. And I want my children and my parents, my kids, I want everybody at the end of the day to say, man, my dad did the best he could to impact and influence us. That's my mission, brother.
Yeah, no, this is kind of ironic because I normally end off every single guest. I always ask the same question. I think you already answered it, which is kind of weird, but I'm going to ask it anyways as we wrap this up. This is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success, and what does winning look like for you? I know, I mean, you can wrap it up maybe in a bow here for me.
Yeah. So success for me is achieving everything that God has designed me for. That is success. That's how I say it. I believe with all my heart that God has designed you, Garrett, for only something that you can achieve. I believe that. I believe that you are unique and you have a certain set of abilities and gifts. So does every listener to this episode. You have a certain set of abilities and gifts that no one else possesses, and you have something that only you can do. And so for me, success is achieving that particular mission. For me, success is, as I'm striving for that mission, not to lose my family, not to lose my faith, and not to lose my friends, as so many of us business owners do. I know countless thousands of business owners. I literally know thousands of business owners who are successful. They don't have their family anymore. The kids won't talk to them. Their spouse or significant other has nothing to do with them. Their friends forsake them for the sake of money. I don't want to be that. Success for me is keeping my family, my friends, and my faith intact through all these bumps and journeys. And at the end of the day, whenever my time comes, my family, my friends, my children, whoever's around my deathbed will say he left it all on the field. He did everything he could. He gave us everything. Wherever he was at, he was present as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a whatever. He was there and he did the best he could. To me, man, that's what it's all about.
Love it. No, great place to stop. I'm going to put in the show notes and how people can get in touch with you, because I think you're providing value. I want people to be able to share in that. But first and foremost, thank you so much for sharing this last hour with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Garrett. Thanks for having me, brother.
All right. Take care.